Every farm has the odd rat, every croft, small holding, doesn't matter. You know, rats, they're everywhere, they're just inevitable. But lately, the population with us has got a bit too high. I'll show you what they're doing. So you can see there, that's a rat hole, that's a good sized run. This one is huge, and you can see all this bare soil, all that's been dug out. There's a proper tunnel network down in there. And here's they've got a scrape going underneath the electric fence, but they've also dug a tunnel right into the chicken run itself. And the chicken run moves around quite a bit, but it doesn't matter. You know, if the rats, the chickens are still only moved within a fairly small confined area on rotation, but still, you know, if the rats are coming in here, the rats can be coming in there. They've also got other bits and show you the ducks. So you can see there, just about, there's a little scrape going underneath the electric fence into where the ducks are. So something has to happen. Now, there are various rat traps that work. You can get the wooden spring type, the kill traps. They're quite good, they do work. But if you just put them out, you'll catch the young, stupid, inexperienced rats. The older ones, the slightly smarter ones, you won't catch them. What you can do is you can put them in inside a box and keep it unset but baited for a week, 10 days, and then you can set it and have it do its thing. And you know, by then the older rats will have seen the younger ones coming in, not getting killed, assume it's safe, and they'll start feeding there as well. So you can trick the bigger, older rats into being trapped that way. The wooden ones tend to shake themselves to pieces. They only work for, I don't know, 20, 30 goes sometimes, and then they'll break. They're no good. So while they're effective, you know, you're talking about a semi-disposable product. You can get ones like this that are made of steel. I haven't actually broken one of these yet. You can get some that are pretty safe to set, actually made of plastic. They seem to work quite well. But again, it's plastics, I don't want to be doing it. During lockdown, we started having a little bit of an issue with them. But at that point, they were coming in to near the bird table, so I was able to keep control of them with an air rifle, just one-on-one. It's fairly labour intensive, but you know, it took less work. But that's obviously quite a bigger issue, so something's got to happen. There are various designs that you can buy online that are really expensive, but very, very effective. But I've made my own. Let me show you it. We're currently under lockdown for poultry because of avian flu, so I've got the chickens in the greenhouse. But hopefully they'll keep quiet enough for me to show you. Now, this whole contraption that I've built sits on top of a conventional plastic bin, and that's got about a foot of water in the bottom of it. Now, this was made entirely from scrap. There's this section here is just a piece of ducting, steel ducting, that I've split, spread them out and screwed that down, and running inside that is this trapdoor. Now, there's a couple of features into this trapdoor. You can see there's bait right at the back there, and of course that's static, that doesn't move. There's mesh across the back so rats can get around, they can sniff the feed, they can see it's there, but if they're going to get at it, they're going to have to come in through here. Now, if a rat just walked out along that platform, it'd get to a certain point and it'd start to go back up again, you know, because, you know, rats aren't stupid, at least old rats aren't stupid. So what we've got to overcome that is on the underside here, where is it? There, that little thing there is a little neodymium magnet, and that contacts that screw there. So it's a nice little bit of contact, and it relies just enough grab so that the rat goes out, it gets out a fair way before that overcomes the weight of this counterweight on the back here. And again, that is adjustable, but this has all been adjusted so that it currently works. So yeah, the rat gets out so far, and then it tips, and after it's gone down the chute, that comes back into its normal position, and it's set and good to go. Now, we've got a lock here. As I say, rats are a long way from stupid, so you've got to be careful. They're very difficult to trap. So with that lock on, I can put feed around on the top here. I can leave it and keep baiting it every day for a week or so, especially at night, and they'll get used to feeding around it. Then we reduce the feed for another week or so into the back here, just so they get, they get used to feeding in there by then. It's no longer scary for them. They're used to going in there, even the older ones. At which point we turn the lock off and it's in the live mode, it's in the kill position. At this point a rat will go out there same as it always does, only now it's a bit more complacent, it's not quite as cautious, so that when that goes and it gets dunked, resets, and that's it, it didn't know it was coming. Of course it drops down at the bottom here where there's water and it will drown fairly quickly. Now, it's a difficult trade-off with a trap like this. You can go for conventional spring traps outside, but the difficulty with those is that you tend to catch wildlife. They're fairly indiscriminate. Something like this, now a rat, an adult full-sized rat, weighs about 230 grams apparently. So it takes something fairly heavy to get out the back there. I'll show you how this one works. Now this tin weighs 200 grams almost exactly. The average rat is 230 grams. So as that goes out, so we're past the point, still not doing anything, and as the rat gets further out, that's fairly quick. Now obviously I've got this on the ground because I didn't want that plunging into the barrel of water, but you can see that all I've got to do is put that onto the bucket of water, and all of a sudden that's set to kill mode. Now we could put this over a big cage, but all we're going to do at that point is catch live rats, which is entirely achievable, but then we've got the problem of what to do with those rats. We can't just release them nearby because we're just creating exactly the same problem for our neighbours that we've had. Right, so we're going to get it set up, and then we're going to bait it. I'm going to keep doing that for about a week or so. I'm going to set up a wildlife camera, and yeah, we're going to see how that does. So you can see there the rats were feeding right down to the back of the trap. There was no big fear in them. They got very, very used to it. At that point, we set it to kill. I did have the camera out. We did get footage of that being triggered, but I'm not going to put it on the video. It's an animal dying. I don't think there's any real benefit to doing so. But we did only catch the one. Now, the trap did reset. It worked perfectly, but about for a fortnight while we had it set up and we were getting the rats conditioned to the trap, we had a sudden cold snap, which meant that I couldn't set it to kill mode any sooner because the water in the bucket was frozen, in the bin. That was frozen solid, it just wouldn't have worked. During that time period, I had a rat come to the bird table in the front garden. That was humanely shot, so that took care of that problem. But we've had confirmation that this trap definitely works, but in the interests of completely openness and explaining everything, every detail of it, when I started putting this together, we were having trouble with, it was in the first lockdown, we were having trouble with rats eating the potatoes in the potato patch. It was getting towards the end of the season by that time, so it wasn't a massive imminent problem, but we were seeing rats fairly regularly. Now, soon after I started constructing this, we noticed that a weasel had moved into the croft. Over the winter, the raptor population has gone up significantly. We started getting, we've got barn owls, we've got tawny owls, we've got obviously the usual buzzards and kestrels, but now we've started seeing things like sparrowhawks more regularly. There's a large predator population. There's also a couple of feral cats knocking about that we catch sometimes on the trail cameras. So there's a lot of animals that are eating on these, and we've seen the weasel hunting right in the back garden where we've been experiencing problems. And therefore we haven't really seen many rats since. So yeah, the fact that it's caught one, that's good enough for me. We know that it works, we know that it resets. I'd seen at least one rat feeding on it. You've seen that footage. But there wasn't a huge amount of evidence to suggest there was a lot of rats. I think 1, 2 at the most that we tended to keep seeing. I mean, they're fairly, nondescript. You can't be absolutely certain with rats, at least I can't. But yeah, we currently do not have a serious rat problem like we did when I put this thing together. But it does work, and we're going to set it aside. We're going to keep it possibly for next summer if we start experiencing more rat problems when we've got potatoes out again. But the other thing we're going to do is put out more raptor roosting posts to try and keep the numbers down that way nearby, without putting those posts, you know, right next to the poultry run, because obviously, you know, that's next to the potato patch there. So yeah, I'm going to call that a win. It is a functioning, self-resetting rat trap for taking out, you know, large populations of rats. Now, spring traps, the advantage of a trap like this, rather than one that you can buy, is that this rat trap will work outside in the open. We've put it under a bit of a lean-to for this, but really, you know, it worked just out in the open quite well, as long as it wasn't, you know, extreme winds. It's a heavy thing, you know, it's not going to blow over. And I think the real benefit of it is it's more wildlife friendly than a conventional boat trap. Those spring traps, you can't really leave them out in the open because you'll catch wildlife. They're fairly indiscriminate. They're like a snare. They'll just kill whatever happens to encounter them. You know, there's no issue there whatsoever. This thing, because I've had the wildlife camera on it for, you know, a fortnight at a time, I know that everything from, you know, robins, crows, mice for that matter, you know, birds tend not to set it off. It's only baited with seed, so I've not had any problems with predators like the weasel coming in. I've never seen the weasel anywhere near it because it's not going to be bothered, you know, it's not what it eats. So yeah, I think it's a really good wildlife friendly alternative to, well, it's probably better than poisoning. You know, it hasn't got any of the negative issues that poisoning does with killing raptors and so on, which is why no one should be using poison. You know, it's a really ridiculously stupid way to take care of rodents. So yeah, there are better options, including you know, designs similar to this that are available on the market. Although there isn't one quite like this. It is fairly unique, but it's what I could make out of what I had looking around in the junk pile. That's my self-resetting, wildlife-friendly rat trap.